please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody, it's Friday, which means it's time for another episode of NHL Remember Him. And today we're going to be looking back on the NHL career of center Mike Sillinger. Mike Sillinger had a very long NHL career and a very interesting NHL career, and we'll get to that in this video. So many different teams he played for, so many in-season trades he was a part of. It really, really is interesting to go back and look. But before we fully get into it, I just ask that you please hit that subscribe button if you're new and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't yet. Both of those things really help out a lot and are very much appreciated. So, Mike Sillinger was a first-round draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings, 11th overall back in 1989. And he went on to play over 1,000 games in the NHL, 1,049 to be exact, scoring 240 goals, 308 assists for 548 career points, and a minus 191 rating. And you see that terrible plus minus there. He was on a lot of not so great teams throughout his career. On top of that, in the playoffs, he played 43 playoff games, scoring 11 goals, 7 assists for 18 points and a minus 1 rating in the postseason. When you think about it, he was drafted in 1989. He made his NHL debut in the 1990-91 season. He played almost 20 years in the league, and he only played 43 playoff games. I think that shows you, how many really not so good teams he was on. And he did spend a lot of time on bad teams throughout his career. And he personally never lived up to being that high of a draft pick. I mean, 11th overall. He had a solid NHL career, and that's why I'm talking about him. And he was a notable player in the late 90s and early 2000s in the NHL, or through the 2000s in the NHL. But he only had 548 career points. He never really lived up to being that high of a draft pick. And he was a good middle-of-the-lineup center, but he never really had that super breakout into becoming, a 60, 70, 80-point guy. And that just never happened, never came to fruition for Sillinger. And one of the big reasons why is injuries, and also the fact that he was on so many different teams. He very rarely played a full season with the same team outside of the very beginning of his career in Detroit. He was constantly moving around, and every time he got traded, he had to readjust and find where he fits in that lineup. And before he could even get chemistry with his new team, he was often gone, sent out somewhere else, playing for a different team again. So it's really, really interesting to look at. Injuries, obviously, he missed a lot of games. He played, 19 seasons in the NHL and only played just over 1,000 games. He missed a lot of games with injuries, and he also was constantly moving around, which never let him get comfortable and get set with, any particular team. So let's take a look here at how much he did move around. Well, he was obviously drafted by Detroit, and he played with Detroit for the first few seasons of his NHL career from 1990 through 1994. Then during the 1994-95 season, he was traded to Anaheim. During the 1995-96 season, he started with Anaheim and then was traded to Vancouver. During 1996-97, he did spend the entire career with the Vancouver Canucks, but then in 1997-98, he went from Vancouver to Philadelphia, and then in 98-99, he went from Philadelphia to Tampa Bay. Then in 99-2000, this is getting ridiculous here, he went from Tampa Bay to Florida. And then in 2000-2001, he went from Florida to Ottawa. That is 4 straight seasons for Mike Sillinger being traded mid-season. 4 straight years, and 6 overall already in his career. Then he finally found a home for a couple of years with the Columbus Blue Jackets. From 2001 to 2003, he played 2 full seasons with Columbus. Then 2003-2004, he split between the Phoenix Coyotes and the St. Louis Blues. And then there was no 2004-2005 season because of the lockout, but the year after the lockout in 05-06, he split again between the St. Louis Blues and Nashville Predators. So that is 8 total seasons in his career where he had been traded mid-season and played for 2 different teams during the same season. Finally, at the end of his career, he found a home with the New York Islanders, where he played for 3 seasons from 2006 to 2009, and he finished his career with New York. But as you can see, a wild career for Mike Sillinger, where he began his career with Detroit for a few seasons. He ended his career with the Islanders for a few seasons, but all that gap in between, he was constantly moving around to playing for different teams. And if we count them here, Detroit, Anaheim, Vancouver, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Florida, Ottawa, Columbus, Phoenix, St. Louis, Nashville, and the Islanders. That is 12 different teams that Mike Sillinger played for in his NHL career in his 19 seasons. So, constantly moving around, and that I think really had an effect on him, never really getting a chance to get comfortable with a single team, and never really having a chance to break out with a single team. He had a few really good seasons of 40 plus, 50 plus points. I think his career high was 59 points, which he actually did towards the end of his career with the Islanders. Believe it or not earlier or in his prime of his career. It was towards the end when he had that 59 point season. But for most of his career, he was around the 40 point mark. And he was a solid middle of your lineup type center, but he never really broke out into being that high first round draft pick type guy. And obviously injuries played a role in that. He did miss a lot of games in his NHL career, but also the constant moving around and being traded, I think, certainly had an effect on that as well. But very, very interesting NHL career. Good player. He's played on for a ton of different teams. Played, unfortunately, for a lot of not so good teams, but did make the playoffs many times throughout his career. Oftentimes ended up losing in the first round. But Mike Sillinger was definitely a guy that I remember. I remember him particularly well from the end of his career with the New York Islanders, personally. That 2007 playoff team in New York. I remember Sillinger being a huge part of that team. But that's the career of Mike Sillinger. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon merchandise store and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.